Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. T Show. I am Dr. T, your host for this podcast. I would like to thank you for joining me today and invite you to follow this show as I engage in conversations with people from all walks of life, but all with one thing in common. That common link, they have a voice with purpose. My hope in bringing you Voices with Purpose is to offer encouragement and inspiration and perhaps help you launch your voice with purpose if you have not already done so. Please be sure to check out my website, drtconsulting.org, for more information and valuable resources. I am very excited to have as my guest today an absolutely amazing person who has answered the call and has activated his voice. My guest, Kevin Smith, has had his life course altered by one single moment of kindness shown towards him. As a result, he has started an amazing and much-needed global movement for such a time as this. Kevin is the founder and chief kindness chaser of Kindness Worldwide, also the executive vice president of wealth management at Smith Wealth Advisory Group and Janney Montgomery Scott LLC. So, Kevin, you and I met at a recent event in Orlando, PodFest 2026, where I first was introduced to this incredible movement. I immediately could see this God-breathed opportunity to bring to our planet an expressible attribute that is so much needed in our world today. Kevin, you have been a guest on this show once, and I look forward to being updated on this incredible movement. Please share with our listeners what Kindness Worldwide is all about and bring us up to date on current events.
Well, hello, my friend. It's great to be with you again. Wow, where do I begin? To say this has been an adventure of a lifetime is an understatement. But to say that this is a calling is an understatement because it definitely is. So, long story short, I was a beneficiary of an act of kindness on Good Friday morning of all days, 2023. And I went to the grocery store on a routine errand to pick up a couple items on a honey-do list for my wife. I did that just fine. I returned home, realized I left one important item behind, which was my wallet. And in that precise moment of panic, my finger is literally on that panic button, which is the ignition button of my car. A young woman magically appears almost like an angel out of heaven, holding my wallet, asking if it was mine. And from that point on, in a simple attempt to identify who this young woman was, thank her in a more meaningful way, it literally took on a life of its own, impossible to really put into words. There's actually a feature film that tries to condense it into 80 minutes, and that doesn't do it justice. And the film is called For Such a Time as This, because this is the perfect time for a movement like this. Our world needs it now more than ever. But just in an effort to identify who this young one was, thank her in a more meaningful way, it became so much more. It became about making a meaningful difference. It opened up pathways almost miraculously to actually bring people and communities together in the spirit of kindness to celebrate what I think is humanity's greatest asset. What began as a community celebration of kindness to acknowledge this young woman publicly for her kindness ultimately evolved into what is now known as Kindness Week Worldwide, which is a movement celebrated throughout the world in many communities. This act of kindness inspired me to form the global nonprofit Kindness Worldwide. We launched that later in 2023. The vision of Kindness Worldwide is to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. There's many pathways to that vision. And it's turned my world upside down, obviously in good ways. This is the most meaningful thing I've ever done in my life, but it's not how I envisioned spending my life at this stage of my life. But when there's a call, and it clearly is a calling, I could tell you things that would give you chills. This has been a lifetime in the making. I had to answer the call. There was no option. And we're bringing people together on what unites. There's so much focus on the divisions in our world. We need to get back to the basics. We need to focus on what matters and see each other for their heart space. I believe we're all children of God, and there's far more that unites and divides, and we need to celebrate what unites and get away from all the negativity that we read and see in the news every day. That's what this movement's all about. I think it's why it's resonating. It's organic. It's grassroots. It wasn't planned. It wasn't orchestrated. It just happened. And now it's a global celebration that, governors are engaging, mayors are engaging, I've been at the United Nations. I've been in royal castles in Europe. I've given a keynote address at the General Assembly of the World Kindness Movement in Palermo, Italy. I've literally been all over the world talking about this story, and it's resonating because it's genuine, it's authentic, it's real, and we need it now more than ever for such a time as this, so to speak.
That's really well said. I appreciate you presenting that, kind of the origins and the etiology, and you're so right. We are all God's children. He has created each one of us. He said that we're all uniquely and incredibly made and beautifully made, and we do get caught up on the differences. We do get caught up on those things that actually divide as opposed to bridge. And likewise, even with this podcast, and that's what I'm attempting to do is create some bridges and some unity. And the reality is when I think about, us being the children of God, God has a plan, a purpose, and a voice for all of us. And so, yes, it is true. There are many, many people not walking according to that plan. But if we take a continuum, much like a bell curve, and everyone would fall on that somewhere, the reality is we're all at a different point. I don't know that we ought to be so critical of one another for where we're at on that continuum, but rather look for ways we can help someone continue along that continuum and move up the bell curve into the 68% of the population that says this is good on, and hopefully moving some up there that says this is great. And I think that's what the Bible talks about when it says, don't judge. Certainly we evaluate things, we assess things. That's the only way we determine healthy, unhealthy, good from bad, whether it's food, television, music, or behaviors of people. So we assess, but that's different than being judgmental. Like Jesus, he picked out the behaviors that he said, hey, these behaviors aren't in line with scripture. These behaviors aren't in line with the Father's will. These behaviors are unhealthy, but he always loved the people and he fed the people, good or bad, wherever they're at in the continuum, he fed and met those needs first. And the need for kindness and the need for collaboration and the need to build bridges is so evident, more evident than I've ever seen it, not just on the planet, but in our country.
Amen, my friend. Well, kindness is the bridge of all divides. It is the universal language that everyone understands. It transcends borders, cultures, differences, language, and time. It's the one thing universally agreed that we need more of. And so, if we all agree that we need more kindness in the world, how do we get it? Well, we encourage it, we recognize it, we reward it, and we celebrate it. And that's really what Kindness Week worldwide is all about. We have days, weeks, even months to celebrate many things, and that's fine. But the one thing, in my opinion, we don't do enough to celebrate is kindness. So let's do it and let's start doing it now. I mentioned this as a calling, and it's interesting because for many, many years, I would tell my wife, Ann, that something's coming. There's something I knew that I was meant to do. I think we're all born for a purpose. Some of us go through life wondering what that purpose is. We all look for meaning in our lives. And I knew something was coming. I said to my wife, something's coming. It was no doubt. And then this act of kindness of all days happened on Good Friday morning, 2023.
Perfect timing.
And in my effort to thank this woman in a more meaningful way, I impulsively reached out to the news of what had happened. This young woman found my wallet on the ground. She immediately, without hesitation, drove 2.6 miles to my home to return it immediately. I thought I should have gone the extra mile for her. And so I reached out to the news and I thought if the news would cover this story, it would inspire others like it did me. And if this young woman would see it, it'd be a way of thanking her in a more meaningful way. And one reporter actually replied to my outreach and she said, Kevin, I agree. We need more good news. She came to my home the following Monday, did an interview. Story aired that evening, and by the next day it had gone viral. It was a story in practically every state in the country. And in that interview, James, I said that God's angels are everywhere. And in that moment, this young woman was one of them to me. When the story went viral, the caption on the vast majority of the stories online was God's angels are everywhere. And I said to my wife, Ann, at the time, this was just a couple of days later after this act of kindness occurred. I had no idea what would happen next. I had no idea what would unfold. But the one thing I did know was that this was it. I said to Ann, I said, this is it. This is what I've been telling you is coming for years. I felt it. I knew it. And now here we are, just a short time later. Kindness Worldwide is called Worldwide for a reason. That's the name of the nonprofit. There is a global movement well underway that's spreading to communities throughout the country and the world to celebrate kindness. And there's a framework to do that. There's blood donation, there's kindness citations, there's kindness cards, ecosystems engaging, schools, children, businesses. It's just to see that unfold, it doesn't surprise me. I've said many times there's magic in our midst and miracles as our destiny. And just like I knew that was it, and the things that started to unfold, as I started to see them unfold, so many serendipitous moments few would believe. There are no coincidences. I call them God winks. Just as I knew everything would happen, that people would respond the way they did, I also know what's going to happen next. This is going to be going to all 50 US governors. It's going to go to every country of the United Nations. If we can't agree on kindness, what can we stand up for? What can we stand upon? Every governor, we've got one so far, Governor Shapiro, state of Pennsylvania, has formally recognized Kindness Week worldwide. That's a great start.
Yes.
Well, why not all 50 governors? And not just issue a proclamation. Let's go out there and be bold, because kindness requires leadership. Kindness is a strength. Let's go out there and proudly say we stand for kindness. And let's inspire our constituents to donate blood and embrace this meaningful week. Every governor universally should agree upon that. And not just every governor, every country. And I think of the United Nations. I was at the United Nations a year ago, planting seeds. There's so much focus on divisions. The United Nations is about peace in our world. We all recognize we should have peace in the world. We don't currently, unfortunately. Well, you can't have peace in our world without a culture of kindness. That's where it begins. Every country should go on record as saying they support kindness. And candidly, if you can't agree on that, then why are you the United Nations? How can you be there calling for peace when you can't even stand up for kindness? So there's a domino effect underway, and we're going to get all 50 governors. It's God's time, not mine. And the story is resonating. It's real. People recognize we need this in our world. Well, let's go get it. And we can do this together. I have ambassadors from all over the world, and we're going to announce you as one in the near future, my friend. And global ambassadors are those who champion this movement, who believe in this cause, are introducing the magic of Kindness Week worldwide in their own communities. They're reaching out to their mayors, their governors, and saying, let's bring this here. And eventually, when enough of us insist upon it, they're going to have to listen. And they will listen, because it's the right thing to do. And true leaders do what's right. They stand on principle. They stand for kindness. I'm tired of words, my friend. You know what? We're all tired of politicians and people. I've had one prominent politician look me in the eye and said, let's get it done. I'm not going to name names, but when someone looks me in the eye and says, let's get it done, I'm a person of my word. I expect them to be a person of theirs. Well, it hasn't gotten done, but I expect it will, and I'm going to insist upon it. And we all need to be true to our word, but we all need to stand up for kindness. And we're all going to be championing this movement together in various ways. But it's needed now more than ever, so let's bring it to the world.
I sense a little bit of the frustration with the hesitancy of some jumping on board. We saw Jesus in his walk. I mean, he was dismayed several times because of the lack of faith in his followers, and they'd fall asleep. And so I encourage you, along with everyone, to let's stay the trail, let's stay the path. We'll just continue to do it. God is the master of outcomes. We'll be faithful and do the yes and amen. You're leading a great cause. Kindness is a standalone. It's a no-brainer, right? Regardless of political platforms or faiths, kindness is a standalone. Jesus didn't put conditions on his kindness. He didn't say you had to first accept me and be born again to receive my kind. He was kind, and that led people to him. So not only is it a standalone, I see it as a foot in the door. It's a characteristic of God. So if we do hope to reach some of those that are unreachable, Jesus gave bread to people. And then when they got bread through that act of kindness, prior to him preaching, they were fed and they thought, okay, well, who is this man that gives us bread? And then they were open to the message. Kindness is the bread, okay? So you're giving bread to people. So not everyone knows where it's coming from or that God is the source, but it's a universal act, a universal characteristic. And as we practice that, I believe it's not only a standalone, but a foot in the door to bring people closer to the knowledge of our Savior.
Well, that's so well said. Well, I consider kindness as love in action.
Yeah.
And God is love. And for me, I'm a person of faith, and it's a calling for sure. And if I can lead by my own example and lead with kindness and see hearts, and which is where the true beauty resides, and hopefully it can inspire others to follow my example. I can control my actions. I can't control the actions and behaviors of others, but I can control my own. And if I leave 'em my example and just try to do my part, my hope is others will be inspired by it and join in. All are welcome, and if people are being inspired and joining in, and you mentioned something earlier. You think of Jesus Christ and his example. I mean, there's an adage, "What would Jesus do?"
Yes.
WWJD. And there's no denying that Jesus Christ was a living human being. He walked this earth. There's no denying that he led by example. He led with kindness. Everything in history that we know about Jesus Christ was if there's any exemplar of kindness, it's him. And it doesn't matter what faith one is in, whether you're a Christian or you're Muslim or you're Jewish or it doesn't matter. There is no denying Jesus Christ walked this earth. And if there's one person that comes to mind, there's many people who did wonderful things and lead with kindness, but everything he did was about kindness. And if we follow his example, regardless if you're what faith one is in, we should be following that example. Love your enemies, forgiveness, all the things, and also kindness as a strength, calling out unkindness, the hypocrisy that you see in others. People in leadership positions who aren't leading with kindness, they're often dividing, and it
Yeah,
takes courage to stand up
it
and
does.
see what's right and do what's right. And he did just that.
He did.
And so, what would Jesus do? I'm just trying to be Christ like by my own example. And we all have that ability within us to just be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people. I think kindness is the world's greatest superpower. It is one that each and every individual on this earth possesses. It is free. All it requires is a simple choice to exercise it. And if each and every one of us did just that, not only would the world around us instantly change, the entire world at large would change because there is a ripple effect and there's a science behind it. It is contagious. Positivity begets more positivity, the law of attraction.
So, yeah,
And if we stop pointing the finger at others, and there's a lot of finger pointing that can go around, a lot of finger pointing, it solves nothing. My world began to change when I looked in the mirror and I pointed the finger at me because I realized that I was a good person before Good Friday morning 2023, but I'm a much better person today because of one act of kindness. But I realized that it's me that needs to do better. It's me that needs to be better. And small changes can create big impacts. And we all have that ability within us to do just that. So I'm just trying to do my part. I mean, but there's many people that believe in this movement, believe in me. I'm very grateful, very humbled by their support. And together, you talk about a superpower. When you surround people guided by heart, passion, and purpose, magic happens. And, I always say anything is possible, all is possible when you believe in the I'm possible. Mindset is everything, believing in yourself, having passion of your convictions. When you surround yourself with people, like minded people in that heart space that have the same passion, heart, and purpose, guess what? Now we got power in numbers and it magnifies. And maybe those that this movement's falling on deaf ears, eventually it's going to be so deafening, they're not going to have any choice but to listen. And we should insist that kindness is the lens, that the standard that we all should be shaping policy. And we can disagree, but we can disagree better with respect. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat or what party you're in. We can disagree better and actually solve problems for the people instead of using problems for wedge issues for power. That's not kindness. That's selfish, not selfless. And I just see too many in leadership positions. Just because you're elected official does not make you a leader. Leaders bring people together. Leaders unite. Leaders stand on what's right. They do what's right. They lead by example. We need more leaders like that with courage of their convictions. And, they're out there. I just don't see enough of them. But if enough of us insist to have leaders like that, eventually they'll listen, they'll have to step up, or we elect leaders who will.
well said. I agree fully with that. I write about it in my book, Awaken. It's not the what, it's the how. And you've established the what. I've established the what, and that's our voice, and that's get it out. So we do need to call out hypocrisy. Jesus did. We do need to call out things that are unhealthy and destroying people and dividing people. Jesus did. But the how is ultimately important. And just as we want to advocate for kindness, I think we can do the how with kindness. As the word says, speak the truth in love. And we will experience moments of frustration. And I have trying to move things that I want moved. And then just as Christ did, that's when I just sit down and say, Lord, I put this in your hands, take this because I know you can carry this burden a lot better than me. And so we will run into that, but that should not stop us from speaking out. This is a tremendous call, a tremendous burden. I so much respect and appreciate your saying yes to this call on your life and appreciate being part of it. I think as we talked to, you gave some more updates in terms of the now in regards to kindness worldwide. I'm aware of an event coming up, I think in May in Fort Myer. Maybe you could spend just a couple minutes, Kevin, on the current, what's coming up and what we can expect here in the months to come.
Well, kindness worldwide is what I call an ecosystem model. It relies on collaboration and alignment with other organizations and individuals in this heart space that are doing wonderful things in the spirit of kindness. If we come together, speak with one voice for kindness, there's much more we can do together than apart. And so Kindness Worldwide is very proud to be a founding member of what's known as the K20. Many that are coalescing around the movement of kindness, and we're just one of many collaborating and coming together. So think G20, your top 20 economic nations. K20, think top 20 kindness organizations, advocates from throughout the world coming together for the initial convening at Florida Gulf Coast University, May 14th. It's going to be a wonderful event, opportunity to collaborate, speak with one voice. There will be a written statement at the end that we all write together and agree upon, just like they do with the G20. And so this movement is real. It's resonating. There's a lot of momentum behind it. It's palpable. And so it gets back to what I alluded to earlier. When you surround yourself with people guided by heart, passion, and purpose, which the K and you speak with one voice for a common shared vision. You can do things differently in the spirit of kindness, but you can all agree on what that vision is. Then you have more influence. And when we are going to insist on more kindness in our world, and we need to institutionalize kindness. We need to make kindness part of our infrastructure. Kindness should be taught in the classroom. We teach academics, and that's important, but we should also teach values and principles and kindness. Kind children do not grow up to be unkind adults. We shape the foundational behaviors at a young age. Same is true in our workplaces, in our communities, in our states, in our countries. And so that's what the K20 is all about. Very excited about it. Again, Kindness Worldwide is just one of many that are part of the 20. And we're just looking forward to speak with one voice and being a voice of influence for the people at large. People throughout the world are longing for this. They're thirsting for this. They recognize the problems in the world, the lack of kindness. They just don't know how to go about bringing it into the world. Well, we're going to kind of be a voice on their behalf and work together to make that happen.
That is absolutely amazing and wonderful. Will Governor Shapiro be able to attend this one?
Well, Governor Shapiro, he was the first and currently the only governor to formally recognize Kindness Week worldwide. We thank him for his support. We want
Yes,
to get
thank
off
you.
with the governor. So he has an open invitation to attend, but there's a caveat. So Governor Shapiro, many may be aware, he's a Democrat governor, and kindness is nonpartisan. Kindness cannot be politicized. Too many things in our world have been politicized. So Governor Shapiro has an open standing invitation to attend and offer his support with a caveat that he also needs to welcome and invite a Republican counterpart governor,
I love it.
join him, and issue the proclamation of Kindness Week worldwide. So Governor Shapiro, if you're listening, we hope you will come. We welcome your support. Bring a
Yes,
friend. And let's not stop there. Why don't you each alternate? So let's have your Republican counterpart, then invite a Democrat governor counterpart, and vice versa. Let's try to get 8, symbolic of the 8 characteristics of kindness, symbolic of the 8 days of kindness week. Eventually, we're going to get them all, but it starts with 1, and then it starts with 2, and the first followers. So all are welcome, but certainly Governor Shapiro, we hope he'll be involved and look forward to him hopefully attending, but bring a friend, as they say.
that's well said. I really appreciate that approach. Let's hope he takes us up on that. As you were speaking, I was just thinking, I don't think the division, well, I know the division didn't used to be as wide between the political parties. So now the primary focus is on the differences, and there's a refusal to align on anything. And that's really contributing to this chaos and this division that we're experiencing. I'm not saying you have to agree on what you don't agree on. I'm not saying you have to compromise, your stand, your belief, or your position. But I do think there is room for both sides, both parties, to find what they do have in common. We've lost the attempt there. And as you indicated, kindness, along with other things, are common attributes that both parties would share. And so I think the lack of sharing commonality has also contributed to that greater wide, that greater divide. And so we need to get back to looking at some of those common grounds and practicing those things. Everything reinforces itself. And if we can make one small step towards that, then that would tend to find success. that would then breed success, and then it would continue to reinforce itself, and we could go get a momentum going in the positive direction as well, without a party or a position having to be compromised or forfeited.
That's very true. Well, Governor Cox, governor of Utah, he once chaired the National Governors Association, and he's all about disagree better. And that's kind of a platform. I think there's a nonprofit he launched, and he's all about kindness. He supports a lot of kindness initiatives in the state of Utah. There's a wonderful organization called One Kind Act a Day, which I'm friends with the folks there, and they do wonderful work. But we can disagree, but we can do so with a spirit of kindness, with respect, with civility, and we need to disagree better. And our discourse, the politics and divisions are they keep getting worse. And something's got to be a catalyst to bring it together. I think about the situation we face as a country and the world. I think I always say we have a P problem, and that we have problems. There are policies that can solve problems rather easily if you focus on the problem for the right reasons. What's preventing problems from being solved? From policies to address those problems? Well, we have personalities that clash. We have politics and power that interfere with that because many, candidly, I think in the political realm, they need problems for their agendas, for wedge issues, for political reasons. Many of them don't have any incentive to solve problems because they need the problems to divide the people, to get votes, or, just do what's right. And the other P that's missing in the equation is the people. We're all looking for people to be leaders and solve problems. We're tired of the divisions. So we should insist upon better leadership. And true leaders, I think, will emerge. And they need to emerge because we cannot continue to go down this path of divisions. True leaders unite and bring people together, all problems. They do it in a spirit of kindness, and we can disagree on how, but we can do it with a lens of kindness and do it in a civil way and do it in a respectful way. I remember back in the day when I grew up, I remember Tip O'Neill was a Democrat, very powerful in the Congress, and you had Ronald Reagan, opposite extremes politically. They'd hang out, have a beer together. They were friends, right? They didn't always agree on policy, but they were friends. It started with heart space, started with a foundation of kindness, and problems got addressed and they got solved. We need more of that now. And I'm sadly, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing enough of it. I don't think any of us are. And that's why, and they're dividing us now. I mean, families are broken apart because of political differences. I mean, it is worse than I've ever seen it. And something's got to change. Something's got to give. And I think it gets into leadership or lack thereof, but they're out there. And if we give an opportunity to lead, I think they will.
I think you're right. Can I add another P?
You bet.
How about pride?
Ah,
We have a
well,
pride
pride is one of the
problem.
deadly sins.
And no one wants to admit they're wrong. No one wants to admit that there's a need on their end to compromise or move the dial. They want to hold position to that stubbornness, to move the dial they see as a weakness or a compromise of their values. We need to get beyond that. It doesn't necessarily need to mean that. What it might also mean is that if I move the dial or help move the dial, it's not compromising, but rather is trying to find what we talked about earlier, some common ground that we do agree on. But pride stops people from getting there. Pride blinds people, and it comes before the fall, as the word says. So, yeah, I think we have another P problem there.
Well, that's so well said. It's very true. Well, too often we have a mindset of win-lose. We need to get into thinking win-win, and I would argue win-win-win. Let's come up with solutions that the people win, the country wins, or communities win. Everybody wins with kindness. With kindness, everybody wins, and you can't fail being kind. I would challenge anybody to look through history and see where kindness was a failure. Now some people confuse niceness with kindness. Niceness, I would argue, is often cowardice disguised as kindness. It's people pleasing. Now that's why kindness is a strength. You can stand on issues and stand firm on issues, but you can debate issues with respect and civility and solve problems. But pride, and what's pride? Gets into being insecure in who one is. When you have values and you have principles, that should be the foundation. They are unwavering. I mean, you can have principles and you can debate, using those principles. But pride often gets into you're not secure in yourself. That some doesn't acknowledge that you're wrong. Or, we all kind of view ourselves as the center of the universe and all the planets rotate around us. Well, we people see that we're all planets that rely on each other, you know, and we've got to work together. You think about the solar system and the universe and the majesty of it all.
Huge
Well, if the sun
collaboration.
was just like a couple inches close to Earth, we'd all burn up. And so it relies on that symbiotic, beautiful chemistry, if you will. And people are the same way. We rely on connection, and no one could ever get through this world alone. So we should never view ourselves at the center of the universe. We are part of a bigger universe and a part of a broader community, locally and globally. We got to work together to survive and to thrive and start thinking win-win and put our pride aside, put our ego aside. The journey of kindness worldwide is all heart, no ego. And I see often in politics, too much ego and too little heart. And that needs to change.
Can't say anything but amen to that, brother. Yeah, that's well said. Due to time, and we both have another commitment, but before I do our closure, I would like to have any final thoughts, and also how can people be a part of this tremendous movement? How can they follow you? What's the best information to offer others so they can jump aboard on this train?
I would encourage everyone to visit the website, kindnessworldwide.org. There are many resources and actionable ideas to bring kindness into your own communities. We are looking for ambassadors, ultimately from every state, every country, to bring the magic of Kindness Week worldwide to their own communities, to be part of this story, to be part of this movement. I'm also available on LinkedIn, social media, and we're all part of the story. Kindness Worldwide is not my story, it's our story. We are all writing the chapters of this beautiful story together. As beautiful as this story has been, I'm convinced the most beautiful chapters are yet to come. And so we welcome everyone to be part of the story, to champion kindness in your own ways. Reach out to your mayors, your governors, your community leaders to celebrate kindness, and also the film For Such a Time as This. We're doing private screenings. It's an award-nominated film. It was nominated for Most Inspirational Documentary at the International Christian Music and Film Festival in Orlando, Florida. So this film is very powerful. We can do private screenings in communities. Many are doing that. So there's many opportunities to get engaged, to be involved, and to champion kindness in your own community and beyond. And all are welcome. This train is moving. It's gaining steam. Cry is all aboard, so everyone can join when they're ready, but it's moving and we're not waiting around.
That is awesome, and it's a tremendous invite, and I would encourage everyone to say yes to that. I certainly am on the train to do all I can to support this great movement. Okay, well, Kevin, I really appreciate you joining me today. As we were doing this, I'm thinking, okay, we will do a part 3, and let's give it a month or so or 2. We'll see the timing. You and I can talk about that. But definitely want to be able to provide listeners updates and continue to advocate across platforms for this great cause and this great mission. So thank you. Kevin Smith, founder and chief chaser of Kindness Worldwide. Follow, connect, join, support. I also want to thank my listeners today for tuning into the Dr. T Show, and I hope that you will join with me weekly as I bring you voices with purpose, such as Kevin. Please check out my website where you will find resources, information on services, as well as my new book, Awaken. I made mention of that earlier in this show, Exposing the Web of Deception, Threatening Our Faith, Family, and Freedom. There's also a free ebook called Peace Space, ready for your download. So until next time, may God bless you, and may He be a light unto your path. And may He help you discover and activate your voice with purpose. Dr. T out.